Sure. So, the coronavirus just throws a lot of uncertainty out there, and we just won't have answers until we know more about how that outbreak has been dealt with and how widespread it's going to become. But in terms of what this cycle looks like from Apple's perspective, there's healthy adoption. And then on a year-on-year basis, clearly we're comping the 11 cycle versus the 10S cycle. So we've got a major upgrade cycle. The better prices which have been given to consumers are obviously sort of hit a note as well. And we've seen good adoption of the Apple hardware.
I just want to get you in because something has been bugging me this morning. There's this one story you read about Huawei. It wasn't you this time. It was Huawei gaining market share in China because you had these patriotic purchases. How does that impact any further growth from the likes of Apple as we move to a phase 2 component of a trade war?
Well, one of the interesting things we saw with this trade issues with Huawei is they focused a lot more on the Chinese market, and it didn't have a huge impact on Apple. Where you saw the impact was on some of its Chinese rivals. So you saw Xiaomi, for example, have double-digit declines in Q3 when it came to smartphone shipments. I think that was the interesting. One of the things I've gleaned from sort of speaking to iPhone users in China is that they're happy to wait. We spoke a little bit about the 5G, Apple not really having a 5G device, China turning on its 5G networks, even though the likes of Xiaomi and the rest have come out with their own 5G phones. Consumers I've spoken to are happy to wait. So we'll wait for the Apple iPhone 5G. These networks have just been turned on. They're not everywhere. The reliability is still a question. So they're happy to wait. I think that's something that Apple can sort of has the advantage of.
Ignorant question number 22 today. What can I get on 5G now or when it's set up? Because I see the adverts from the BT-owned EE and all those. What can I get on 5G now that I can't get on 4G now? I'm not talking about the future, I'm talking about now.
Literally just faster download speed. And this is the point. I mean, 5G as a technology.
And even that is probably restricted to when you are stood in one spot rather than walking around with a
when I get my 5G then, yeah? When I get my 5G
Yes,
handset now.
so,
I mean, for the future
absolutely.
I get it, you convinced me, in 5 years' time it's going to be phenomenal.
So this is going to be an interesting debate as to what Apple's strategy is this year. I mean, Apple has a history of being late with next-gen phones because they quite frankly won't want to release a 5G handset with all the content and the higher bill of materials that that phone contains if their customers, their users, aren't going to get any utility out of that. So
this is a good point around content because Arjo, remember, made a comment to me when we were looking at some of the virtual reality that the content just wasn't good enough. There was a lag effect between the hardware being released and the content catching up. So what do you think this time round?
On 3G at the turn of the century, I remember full well. Great product, but no real good services attached.
Yeah. I think telcos are going to have to convince the consumers that they need to upgrade, and that's the other point here.
So the big initial utility really for 5G is for the operators because it's a much more efficient network infrastructure for them, so they can handle a much larger amount of capacity without necessarily the sort of the overheads that they've had on previous cycles with regards to the demand for things like video and real-time gaming. But you're absolutely right. Right at this stage, we need to see what the applications are. You've got to remember 4G, if you asked anybody to predict what the applications for 4G, most people would have got them wrong. Things like Facebook, things like YouTube, things like Netflix were the real beneficiaries of 4G. But 10 years ago, when 4G networks were only just starting to proliferate, I don't think anybody was calling those three names out.
I can't remember. Tell me the truth. Who did we think was going to be the beneficiary?
I think people just thought it would just be better for download speeds and accessing email and
better for the
things
networks,
like that.
but it wasn't necessarily.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.